Hello everyone, this is Danish from jobskillshare.org. This training is dedicated to anyone who would like to learn about VirtualBox from scratch. Now, there are different type of people that I'm basically targeting in this video. One that usually go out to ask or seek for mentorship or some kind of guidance from someone that I want to build my own lab, so what should I do? Usually you get an answer that you should get a VirtualBox, and you're thinking, oh, what is VirtualBox, right? So it's designed for somebody who is extremely new to IT and they want to build their own lab without spending too much money. Now, of course, we are a platform, jobskillshare.org. In our live training, we give people ESXi and like a server access with 30 GB RAM, and so we know our labs is going to be covered for next 30 days when they're doing training with us and everything. So that 30 days they're pretty good and they understand everything and they learn, and then they go back to more of our platforms that we use like Practice Lab for 1 year access, and then they have a lot of access. But the problem is that a lot of people also follow our free trainings, which is on YouTube, which is exactly the same as a live training, but it's more like it's done in a more unorthodox way, in a way that I just go in and teach skills, right? So perfect example is going to be like, okay, I want to build a network, right? People will say, hey, why don't you build a domain controller? And you're like, what is domain controller? What is Active Directory? Stuff like that. And then you're like thinking, how do I do this on a VirtualBox? How do I get my first system running inside my computer? So a lot of people have, this stoppage out there. I would say like they stopped right there. Like, okay, how do I do this? So then they go to the YouTube videos and they type, VirtualBox domain controller. And I have done many VirtualBox videos. As you can see on my screen, I have about JobskillShare. If you just put JobskillShare and put VirtualBox with it, you're going to see tons of videos out there. But in this training, I'm going to start all over again, fresh, new stuff, and I'll show you some techniques. So let's get on there. And the first thing is for whoever is a brand new person, because these are educational videos. So if you're listening to me and you're like, oh man, he's talking a lot, where's the technical video? Please forward my videos, because I have a huge number of people that watch these type of videos sometimes, and those are all learners. They want to learn something from scratch. So let's get into a little bit of theory of just non-technical way. How can I explain VirtualBox to you? Okay, so I'm going to start with a non-technical explanation of what I'm going to achieve from this training. So basically, most of the people that are going to use this type of software, they will have some type of laptop or a desktop with them. Okay, so you have a laptop or you have a desktop, doesn't matter what it is, Windows, Mac, Linux, but I'm going to be using Windows because that's what I have right now. And I will basically talk about where you're going to have problems and where you can be doing your labs with no issues, but still we'll talk about some of the problems in future. So right now you have a laptop, you have an operating system already running on this system. So because I'm using Windows, I'm going to stick to Windows. So I have Win 10 right now, Windows 10. Okay, so if my machine have 8 GB RAM, so let's say this is our RAM right here, 8 GB, and then let's say I'm using a 300 SSD hard disk, right? Solid state drive. Okay, so if I'm using that SSD, that 300, then this is what I have total amount in this operating system. Operating system is running on side of your desktop or laptop, and it's utilizing all of that RAM, all of that space that you have right now. That's the main operating system. So when we talk about VirtualBox, that's kind of like we're talking about virtualization. Now in the real world example, a lot of people are using different type of products, or there are mainly business products like VMware. That's a company, and that's it. They have their name, and they have this ESXi, vCenter. They have so many different products that people use to manage servers and different type of operating systems inside that system. Okay, and that's, they buy a pretty big hardware. Like for example, they will buy a server. It will be very powerful. So it's not going to have 8 GB RAM. It's going to have 256 or even more than that, and then they're going to have multiple of these big servers, so 256, and then because of those products, they're designed that way that they can put all these machines on it, and if one goes down, then without any issue, all the machines are going to just drop to the second host if they have done everything correctly. So usually virtualization is very powerful. In a reality, when we become sysadmins, network engineers, or security people, we really want virtualization these days. That's the current trend these days. I mean, you are not going to find too many companies just buying random servers like hardware and putting operating system on top of it for each and every server. The data center is going to be pretty big, and that's why it's shrinking, that it even going to cloud now, right? So we have this virtualization with cloud going on. But this video is about Virtualbox. It's about you right now, but I wanted to give this clarity right here, okay? So let's just remove all this stuff now and get back to what you have, right? So you have a laptop, which is your data center. Think of it like that. And then you have this operating system on top of it. Then you go out and you download this software called Virtualbox. Okay, so you basically have this software and you install it inside this operating system. Now remember, you're installing this software on top of your system. So just like what you're seeing in front of your screen right now, this is a Windows 10 machine, and now I am going to install Virtualbox on top of it. Okay, so let's say if I have that much of memory and that much of space, then out of that space I can give certain amount of memory and certain amount of space, certain amount of CPU usage and other things, and I'll basically give it to that machine. When it turns on, it's going to grab it and say, oh, I'm going to be using this from your machine. So now remember, this becomes pretty tricky because a lot of people may think that, oh, I'm just going to go and download Virtualbox, no problem. If you don't have a SSD, then you got a problem. It's going to be very slow, and it's going to be giving you headache because you're not used to that kind of speed these days. You don't want to wait for an operating system to take so long, and then you're laggy and all that kind of stuff. So your learning experience become pretty crappy. Sorry for my wording, because that's the real thing. That's how you're gonna feel. So my suggestion to you, even if you do not want to invest in our platform or some other places, or don't want to buy your own server, then at least invest in yourself. Meaning, get a better laptop. And 100%, I'm gonna basically suggest or recommend you to go for SSD. I mean, if you want to make your life easy, then go for SSD. It's fast. You're gonna have a better lab experience, and you're gonna love it. Now, another issue that you're going to come across is this person right here, the RAM. Now, imagine if your machine is taking over your machine is running, Windows 10 is running on 8 GB RAM, then Windows 10 also utilize some part of your RAM. Probably 2 GB is minimum requirement, right? Now, the problem with that is that if it's not going to be using all 2 GB all the time. But the problem is that as soon as you give that memory to another machine, that's where your machine is going to start screaming. They'll say, oh, you gave 2 GB RAM out of my RAM that I'm using, 8 GB out of that, it's using some, and then now you have this virtual machine, then you gave it 2 right here, then maybe you did another one, 2, and then even if you are using SSD, you got a problem now, right? You cannot, achieve much out of it. So because when we teach things, we have to teach about deployments, imaging, a lot of different things, and you can do that on 1 or 2 machines, but again, the experience is going to be pretty much like just restricted to that. And then of course later on you may need more equipment like router, switches, blah blah blah, all these kind of things, and that's where we give out all this access, which a lot of people don't think about. But if you want to keep things to yourself and make it smooth, then I say that go with at least 500 plus SSD. And these days SSDs are cheap, trust me. Go online and just check it. And at least you should get 16 plus for RAM. The reason for that is that you're just not worried about your host getting roasted, and then you're just only worried about your virtual machines, and then you can give it like 4 GB RAM to one, 4 GB to another one, 2 GB to another one that you're not using, maybe domain controller, you're not using it, those servers, and you're playing around with the 2 machines, like you're logging in as a user in one machine and you're logging in as an admin on another machine. You're trying to deploy one type of policies to one machine, and then you're trying to deploy another policies to another machines. This way you can learn a lot better, and specifically when you have that kind of RAM. Is it expensive? Yes, like I said, you either have to invest here or you have to invest in a platform like ours or any other platforms that gives you this ability, practice, or real world practice. So my theory ends right here. Now a lot of people will say, oh, how do I check if I have a SSD or not? Pretty simple command I'm going to show you. Simply basically go to run and type this command dfrgui. Okay, so when you click on it, is you click enter, it's going to say that you have either hard disk. If it doesn't say solid state drive, then you have a normal hard disk. If it says solid state drive, then you're good to go. And how do you check memory? Simply right click on your machine, start menu, go to system, and when you go to system, then you're going to see your machine memory. And now of course I have a pretty beefed up laptop which is 32 GB RAM, and I'm using i7, which is pretty powerful. I mean, I'm not gonna have any issues with this stuff. So now we have cleared that. You need more than 16 GB, you need more than 500 for solid state drive space, because you're gonna need this later on, right? When we do imaging and stuff like that later on, you're gonna need it. If you want to get that practice going on, you're gonna need it. We're done with talking. Now let's get into the lab. Now, how do we install VirtualBox? So all we gotta do is we're gonna go into our web browser, so you can pick any, and you're gonna type VirtualBox right here, and you will basically enter. So go to the first link and click on download, and once you click on download, then I'm going to pick the Windows host right here, and I'm downloading it right now. It's downloaded almost, and I'm gonna basically run it and install it. Very basic stuff. Like I said, you're installing a software on top of another operating system. Okay, so we're just going to click next, 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 and I'm just going to pick everything the same. I'm just going to install it without changing anything. So there you go, it's installing right now. So we got a VirtualBox ready to go almost. Okay, there you go, we got a VirtualBox ready, and now we're just basically going to finish, and I'm going to start it. Okay, now as you can see, when you start the VirtualBox, there's actually nothing in there, like, you know, there's no operating systems, virtual operating systems already pre-installed in this. So you have to do that part, right? And that's where basically you can open it and just kind of like go around it, just say, okay, file preferences, you have some preferences over here. This means that if you look at the default machine folder, it's going to be saving folders in this folder. This is probably my username, and then here is the VirtualBox. So that is where it's going to be saving all of the folder input. Then you have these different type of shortcuts that if you feel like you want to go over it, but in the beginning, trust me, nobody's going to remember this stuff, so don't even worry about this stuff. And then you have this VirtualBox stuff right here. I'll show you this because that's something that you can come and just kind of do it yourself. And here you can see check for updates. It's good because you want to keep it checked, because if there's a new version available and if there's some kind of bug in the version or that you are using, then maybe you should keep it up to date. Languages, you can change languages over here. Display, if you want to change your display from, you know, let's say specifically you want to put in like, you know, none over here and just want to like use all monitors, then you can do that. But I'm going to keep it automatic, because that basically tells me that it's going to pick your laptop or your desktop resolutions automatically. So I don't mess with this kind of stuff. Then you have this network, network, meaning basically you can add a network over here. You can create a new network. You can click on here, you can remove it, or once you add it, you can actually double click on it and you can actually give it a new IP address if you want to do that. Now here's the thing, if you're brand new, then don't worry about this stuff either, because if you want to learn something, then maybe wait on this stuff in my part 2 videos where I go in a little bit more advanced in VirtualBox. So for now, let's keep it only simple and don't touch these things. So remove anything. If you see anything right here, just remove it from the system, and I'll show you how you can connect your VirtualBox virtual machines to your own network, so it's easier for you to learn in the beginning. So this is more of like a part 1 right now, because I'm going to be making a lot of videos on this. Don't know what this extension stuff is, proxy, like I said, don't worry about it. These are the things that you're going to come across later on. So right now you want to keep everything the default, and everything should be like that. So now you must be thinking, where do we get all these operating systems from? Well, operating systems is always going to come from the source, whoever is the kind of like the owner of those operating systems. Like for example, we say Microsoft, you're going to have to go to Microsoft to download these operating systems. So how do we do that? All you got to do is you type server 2019 evaluation, there you go, evaluation ISO. Okay, so it's like a file right? It's a file, it's a virtual file. You basically, like, it's like, consider it like a CD, right? A DVD. We used to get a DVD before. Back then we will buy a computer that will give us the DVD, we plug it into the computer, and then we install operating system. Nowadays we don't do that, right? We don't get that kind of stuff. We basically get this ISO file from Microsoft directly. We burn it, we can directly install it by mounting on it and all that kind of stuff. But to make things easier right now, just go ahead and type this in your browser and then go to this Try Windows 2019 Server Evaluation Center. You basically click on it, and then you're going to have to register, meaning you're going to have to provide your username and password inside the Microsoft, and then you basically click on continue. You just type all this form thing, go back to continue, and download this ISO. It's a pretty big file, so know that it's going to take a little bit of time. If you have a slow network, then just be patient. So once I put that information, I click on my language, and I'm going to click on download. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So you see, as soon as I click on download, on the left side it's showing up right here, and you can see I do have a pretty fast network, so it's probably not gonna take that long for 4.9 GB, almost 5 GB of space is gonna take for my solid state, and I got a 1 TB SSD, so this shouldn't be a big deal for me. But I'm gonna download it, and then what you want to do while this is happening, and if you have a fast network, then you should always go and download Windows 10 Enterprise ISO. Okay, so it's gonna say, when you type Windows 10 Enterprise ISO, you're gonna say try Windows 10 Enterprise. So now you got, I think, 180 days with the server and 90 days with Windows 10. So that's a lot of time, and you can always reset it in your lab environment. So don't pick the bottom one, pick the top one, and then download just like you did the server. Now here's the key with the Windows 10. Once you pick the language, make sure you pick 64-bit, because most of these systems these days are coming with 64-bit. You're not going to see 32-bit systems that much, and companies are not using it for many other reasons. So that's kind of like it's going to go away. So just stick to the 64-bit and download that as well, and you're going to see that's going to get downloaded as well. Download, and there you go. I started the download, and now I have Windows 10 download working, and Windows Server is almost completed right now. Now where are all these downloads are going and getting downloaded? Most likely it's going to be in your PC and download. So this is basic 101 stuff. Now I do want to add something in this training, because a lot of people are going to think that, am I going to train in the skills? I'm not going to be training on the skills. I'm training on just on Virtualbox, how to create your lab. But there are many other things that you need to learn as an IT professional. If you're watching me and you're like thinking, how do I learn all these things? So while I make this video, I'm going to also show you how do you actually learn. Okay, you downloaded the Windows Server and Windows 10, you connected it to a domain, you watched me how to do a domain controller and everything, but how do you use it? Like, what kind of questions are you going to get? So I'm going to show you a free version where you can either take a whole course in just one video, or you can take it on our website for free, or you can just take our training plain, just invest in yourself. So there's going to be a lot of option for you, and to be honest, there's too much available to you right now. So as you can see in the download section, we have 2019 server already ready to be deployed on our virtual box. So as you can see, we have this Virtualbox right here. So we can click on file right here, and we can say, okay, I want to basically do what? Can I create a virtual machine from here? Now this is a little confusing here. You can see you can probably do something over here, new cloud VM, import VM, stuff like that. But the best way to do this is in the add, or here you go to the machine and you can click on new, or you can add right here, or you can click on new from here too. So I think it's much easier that you have these two buttons right here, and it's very easy to create a virtual machine. If you already had a virtual machine, you could always use add stuff. So we're going to be doing this from scratch, so we're going to click on new. Now here's another issue that you're going to come across. If I click on this and you see that, oh, I'm only seeing 32-bit. So what I will suggest you this, go to YouTube, type Job Skills Share Virtualbox 64-bit. So as soon as you type that 64 Job Skills Share Virtualbox 64, you're going to see a video where in that video I show you that if your system has, from your BIOS, if the virtualization is not enabled, you have to actually go to your BIOS. So I don't know what system you're using, or the best way is this, that make sure you type your model number and just look for information. How do I turn on virtualization on this specific machine that you're using. There's always something in the new machines, just have to enable it if you don't see it. Now, most of the machines comes with this feature enabled these days, so if you want to check it, how do you check it? You go to the task manager of your machine, right click on the task, go to your machine, and then do this. Your task manager will open up. If you see something like this, like a lighter version of task manager, then you need to click on details right here on the bottom. Right here it says details, and then click on performance. Okay, so once you click on performance, on the right side, see right here virtualization in Windows 10, you're going to see enabled. So if this is disabled, then you know that it's disabled. You have to kind of find that out from your from your model number and everything. Now, to create our first machine, what are we creating right now? We're creating a server operating system, because if you want to do a lab, yeah, you can just install a new operating system like Windows 10, but what's the point of that? You want to learn IT stuff, then this is where we tell people that do use VirtualBox. You see, saying that was so easy, right? Hey, just use VirtualBox, but you got to do all the stuff that I just did. And now you are at that position where we're telling, hey, why don't you create your own domain controller, or kind of like a company like network, so you can do some of the steps like Active Directory, password resets, and just kind of like do hands-on practice. So what you want to do is you want to type server 2019. You can type it whatever you want to type it, and here you're just going to pick that 2019 64-bit is available. We're going to click next. So you see that if you use a template like that, it tells you that that's the memory that it requires. You can go a little bit more than that if you want to. If I want to go a little bit further, because I want to make sure that this, in the installation process, when you're installing something in VirtualBox, you always give it more. So always give it like extra. Later you can always play around with this virtual memories. Remember, you can turn off the machine, bring it down, and then kind of set it up based on whatever you have. But in the beginning, you always want to give it more, because you want to make it, you want to run this faster. You want to get this thing done quickly, right? So now I'm going to give it 8, and I'm going to click next. So here's another important piece why I say that you need space. Click on create a virtual hard disk. So in the beginning, don't worry about any other things. None of the VDI, VHD, VMDK. We're going to talk about this later on. In the beginning, you just want to follow what I'm doing right now. VDI is the example that you want to use. Click on that. Dynamically allocated is also an option that we can pick, and fixed size too. We're not going to fix size. The reason for that is that tomorrow, if we have to move up or go to a different size of our server, then you can do that. Now, so if you use fixed, it tells you right there the file may take longer to create on some system, but it's often more faster to use. So if you want to maybe use faster, and it may take a longer time to create that, so maybe you can use a fixed one. But I like dynamic, because if it tells you right here, dynamic hard disk file will only use space on your physical hard disk as it fills up to the maximum fixed size, although it will not shrink again automatically when space on it is freed. We're going to use dynamic. Okay, so we're going to click on next and just leave it that, and maybe 50 GB is fine. If you have so much space, then of course 50 GB is fine. So that's it for a server template. You have created just the basic information right now. Now that doesn't mean that you have installed an operating system. That's why you install that ISO, so we can now install the operating system on this template. But before you do that, there's a very important thing that you need to do with VirtualBox. You have to right click and go to settings. And when you go to settings, now these are the settings specifically about VirtualBox. Now in most cases, you're not going to come across any issues if you keep doing the same stuff. Like I said, it depends on the CPU that you use, it depends on the computer that you use. So if you come across any issues at this point, you have to do your research, meaning you have to use that IT skills by going to Google, typing your CPU, typing your model name, because it's very different for every model. But most of the time, 90% of the time, whatever I did, it should be okay with you too. Now, here's some important information that you have to check. So if you come over to the general information of this template, we got basic, we got advanced, we're not touching none of this stuff. And then if you come over to systems right here, then it basically picked on few things like, okay, when I boot this machine, what system am I going to see? Am I going to see network? There's no network enabled. Don't play around with none of these things, no processor things, none of that. But here's the thing, you do want to beef up the CPU when you install things in the beginning, and specifically for machines like domain controller or servers, you want to put 2 right there. The reason for that is that 1 is not enough. 2 would be great. Okay, so just use that. Rest of the stuff leave it for now. We're not going to touch none of this stuff. We don't want to play none of this stuff, right? And everything is there, should be there, audio. And I mean, if you want to if there's no requirement for audio, then maybe just disable audio. It's just one less thing in the system. Okay, now if there is a USB and you don't want to use USB controller, then of course disable that too. Invalid setting detected, that's fine, we don't care about that. And then you go to the network right here, and here's the most important thing for you. In the beginning, don't use NAT or any other like local NAT, internet, none of that stuff. Forget about this stuff, use bridge adapter. Okay, and here you will see some of the adapters that your machine is running. I'm going to be using this one because that's my Ethernet adapter. You will be using your adapter in your system. So how do you find adapters on your system? You simply right click, go to the open network, and here on the left side you have these Ethernet connections. When you click on it, change adapter options, and depending on what system you're using, you're going to see it right here. So you can see if I say, okay, how did I pick the other one that I was just using it, you see the Virtualbox is right here, but my main adapter is right here, and that's where it tells me that name. So if you put your mouse on top of it, it's going to tell you the whole name of the adapter, and then you can basically verify it right here in the Virtualbox. That's the same one. Everything good to go, and I'm going to say okay, done. So we're done with that, and now what I will do is I'm going to start this machine so then I can install my operating system on top of this machine, this template right now. So I click yes, start, and now it's starting right now. It's going to basically give me this information. So first time when it opens up like that, it's going to say, okay, I didn't detect any system. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to install? So I'm going to basically say, okay, yeah, go to this folder, and there's no CD in there, right? ISO is not there, so I have to add it. I'm going to click on add, and now when I click on add, I'm going to go to download. And now when I go to download, I have 2 versions. So one is a server. So if I move my mouse on top of this like that, you see it tells you the server. The second one that I installed, it doesn't say Windows, but it says client. So server, client, that's what people say. You don't learn about server, client, that's exactly what it is. So we're going to pick server, and we're going to pick choose right here. And then we're going to click start. So when you click on start, you can see the machine will start like that, and now it's loading files immediately. Now here's the thing with Virtualbox, and depending on what your system you're using, if you're seeing a very small screen, how do you make it bigger? You click on view, you could go to virtual screens, and here you can see I'm going to make this 150. Maybe that's not enough for me for this machine. This is a high resolution. Or maybe I'm going to say 200, and that's okay, but I can even go above than that, meaning if I want to make it more bigger for this screen, let's just do it again. Maybe I'll just go with 250. That's much better, right? And I can make this like that, and I can then, just if I want to resize the window, I can make it like that too. So because maybe I want to open 2 Virtualbox at some point, maybe I want to do that. So then you want to play around with these. Then you have these machine settings right here on the side. Right here you have file, you have preferences again, network operations, reset all warnings. You have machine settings, and the same settings when you click on settings, it's gonna open up some settings, but you won't be able to change anything because it's running right now. So every time when you want to change something, for example, if I go to CPU or the processor, or I want to make it 3, or I want to make it 4, or I want to change the memory again, I want to bring it down, then what do? You have to shut down the machine and then go to the settings, and then you can change it, then restart the machine. Then it works pretty good. Okay. The rest of the stuff is just keyboard stuff like that. Like I said, we like remove USBs. You can even add more USB once it's started. Other things, like I said in the beginning, don't worry about it. That's not important for most of your learning. So here you go. We got a 2019 server ready, and I'm gonna click on install, and now this server will start installing on top of my laptop. As soon as I'm doing that, what will happen? That 32 GB RAM that I have dedicated that 8 GB to this machine right now. And out of that 8 GB, it's not using the whole 8 GB right now. Still, it's using some amount of GB from the whole 32-bit, but at the same time, it's using it. It's using some of it. So if I put more virtual machines on top of this, that's where my system is going to start screaming more. So while I'm recording, I can still see some of the lag now, and that's a problem with these things. In home labs, if you don't have a powerful machine, then basically you're going to be having a tough time. And when you have less than 8 GB or 8 GB RAM, then of course you're going to have a tough time. And if you have a normal hard disk and not SSD, then you're going to have nightmares. So now here we're going to pick a 2019 desktop experience, which is GUI. So meaning like you're not learning something in the beginning, just command line stuff. So of course that's what I'm going to suggest. And you just accept the agreement. Go for the custom installation because you're not upgrading. And here you go. This is the 50 GB space that we allocated with this virtual machine. And we're going to click next over here. So this takes a little time, and there you go. So now you see after this is basically a normal installation, and this is where your machine is going to tell you if it's slow or fast. Even with SSD running this on this laptop, it's still not going to be super fast like the server that we're using in our labs. Servers virtualizations, whereas bare metal virtualization is a little different. It's like a whole operating system is a virtualized operating system, right? And it's running on top of the server, so it uses all bits and pieces of that server and give it to that virtual machines. And it doesn't, there's no middleman, like there's no a GUI type of operating system first and then you put another operating system. So there's a lot for this to process, right? So that's why we use vSphere in our trainings, because it's so quick. We give it to our members, they get on the servers, and then boom, they just start installing the things, just like how real world virtualization should be. But even in this case, you can see it's still going fast. If you were using a normal hard disk, this is exactly what you're going to see here. You're going to be on like 6%, while you with SSD, I'm already on 25%. So that's the big difference that you're going to see between these two. Why I recommended this a lot, because that's not just it. After that, when you install the operating system, after that, the processes that you're doing, restarts that you're doing, things like that is going to be very much a problem. Now, while that is installing, and you'll be like, okay, Danish, where do I really learn about this stuff like that you're talking about, this domain controller, IT stuff? So if you're new to our channel, first of all, go to Job Skills Share, because if you're missing our membership and our subscription on jobskillshare.org, on our just normal channel, then you're missing a lot of stuff. So go to Job Skills Share Community, click on Job Skills Share Community, and then when you click on Job Skills Share Community, then you can go to this playlist, which is basically everything that you're gonna need to learn. So the first thing I would suggest, if you want to keep everything for free, then maybe take this one video course, so you're not going left and right. Okay, but we got tons of videos out there. So go to the videos right here, and in these videos, look for this 12 hours long video. It's a full training, by the way. If you finish this whole 12 hours, I feel like I don't know how you cannot learn these skills after this. So if you can come down, you see this right here, IT skills training for beginners. This is how much? This is about 12 hours long video. So if you click on it, this is 12 hours starting from the scratch. It teaches you all the things that I'm basically talking in this Virtualbox training, which is just, I'm just creating a body right here, right? I'm just showing you how can you create your own normal network, and then you can use any other training to use this lab. But if you still say, hey, Job Skills Share, do you have something for me that I can just go in and learn those skills, then this is the video that you should be watching from all the way from starting to ending. You're going to learn huge amount of things in IT, and I can guarantee you on that. If this is not enough, you feel like, no, I feel like I want to do a little bit tiny things, then go to the playlist. And just watch the playlist. Go by the playlist. We got tons of videos, more than 1,000 plus videos for you to come over here and then play around with anything. You want to know about IT career questions? I have 86 videos on that. You want to know about Office 365, you want to know about software installation, you want to know about systems administration, you want to know about troubleshooting, you want to know about remote troubleshooting, you want to know about tools for IT, Active Directory training, ticketing system training, every single thing that you're going to come across as a beginner, you have it right there. Okay, now if you feel like, Danish, I like more of a course approach. I want to do more of a course approach. Okay, I want to do more of a LMS, learning management system approach. So this is the link that you need to be typing: jobskillshare/free. So when you type this link, you're gonna get to our website, and it's a step approach, and it has even more. So once you go to this page, you see that our official course is IT Fundamental V1.0. It's only $9 for this course, but you can get it for free for certain way. If you read this information, I'm sure you're gonna get it for free. But then there's this big course that is a combination of many different type of skills: help desk support, technical skills, then ticketing system. It's step-by-step approach, step-by-step, and it's a huge process. I'm sure it's going to take you some time, and that's where you will see this video right here: virtualization training for entry-level help desk. Now, the things that I'm teaching you today is just basically about VirtualBox, but it's not about virtualization overall. If you want to learn about the virtualization in a business world and how you can cash on this type of skills and use it, then that's the playlist that you should be watching, because that's where things gets really at the business level. Okay. And now you're like, hey Danish, do you have anything for me, like a hands-on thing? I wanna learn from you, or do one-on-one mentorship. I wanna sit with you, I wanna learn. Then consider going for the homepage, the MIPS instructor-led MIPS training, which is basically our training that we train you with different phases. It's not just me doing live training with you. First phase is gonna be live to break everything for you nicely the way I'm doing it right now. But later on, we get too technical. We just get into servers, and you do things, I watch you. You do things, I watch you. Then after that, I give you labs, and you do that for like 2-3 months. And after that, you have this 1 year access to the labs for career development. I mean, it's a huge access. If you want to invest in yourself, then think about it. But before investment, I told you it's the best way, the free way, and it's equivalent to this. But there's a person investing energy and time with you, and the free one, I already did it, so no charge for that. So now going back to our where we are, so 95% done, and we're still gonna wait for it to finish up. Alright, so your machine is going to get started, and this is the first screen that you will see. As you can see, I tried to put a password in there, but I forgot to put my recording on, and I couldn't do it. And I'm like, oh, I forgot to record. So here you go. Make sure you put an easy password. I'm just gonna put something an easy. Sometimes your keyboard may not be working correctly, so if this is the case, then look at your caps lock or something like that if you're having issues. Okay, so now here you go. We got the domain controller up. Sorry, we got the server running, and we haven't made it to a domain controller yet. This is just a basic server operating system. So now here's the thing. This is where we teach people, right? If you want to learn this from our normal help desk courses that I show you, the free content and everything, this is stuff that we have shown, and that's the training that you get. What is server? What do we do with the server? Where do we use server? Blah blah blah, and it becomes another 1 hour training, 2 hours of trainings. So consider this a server right now. That's what you need. A lot of people say, hey, put a server, put a domain control. So this is exactly what it is. You have a 2019 server. So now how do you do all control delete? You see you got these input keyboards and stuff like that. So you're gonna go to the keyboard input, and here you see insert control alt delete. As soon as you do that, the control alt delete will be push. You can't do your alt control delete on your machine because it's going to be using your main machine alt control, because a lot of new people get stuck right there and like, oh, I'm putting alt control delete, why is it not working? You got to actually you have two machines running right now. You have your own machine running, and then inside your machine there's another machine running. So for that inside machine you have to use input. So here you have the password that you just did. You're going to apply it right here. Now remember, this is a server operating system. This means at this point it's nothing. It's just a system. It's just a server. It doesn't do anything for you that much in learning. In reality, you got to convert this server into a domain controller. A domain controller is basically, like a non-technical term, it's like one server. You can consider this like a management server. And then when you put an Active Directory, which is another kind of like a feature from Microsoft, where you add the role from Microsoft, you add this into the server, that Active Directory is like the controller, right? It has machines, it has users, it has user passwords, resets, stuff like that, password reset. You go into that user, you find that user, reset their password, they call you, blah, blah, blah. All these different type of calls. Like I said, if you go back to my course, I have done a whole live training in that course for free for almost 2 hours, and just talking about what kind of calls you're going to get, how you're going to do it, just exactly what you're doing right now in the system. So please, for learning, make sure you know the difference between what I'm doing today and what it's gonna need for you to learn tomorrow for your skills building. So here you're gonna see this network option. And remember, when we use the bridged connection, what happened is that when this machine started, it basically knocked on your router that you're currently using for this machine, currently the main machine. So the main machine, when you turn it on, you connect to Wi-Fi, you connect to your Ethernet, it goes out there and say, hey, I'm a new system, I just got connected to your network, I'm authorized for an IP address or a connection, can you give me an IP address? Your DCP from your router says, hey, yeah, this is your number right here, there you go, you can go ahead and you can do your browsing and everything. When you did that bridge option, what you just did, that you have enabled this machine to talk to your systems outside, to your routers and the networking. So through your adapter from your main machine, it goes out and grab an IP address. Now, a lot of people may say, if you're doing a security lab, then don't do that, because then you're opening up a security virtual machine to your network. So maybe later on, if you watch my parts, different type of parts, if you want to do a security lab tomorrow, then you want to separate your virtual machines from your main network, which is something we can do in advanced training. That's why we don't go and talk about security in the beginning, because if you don't know none of this stuff in the beginning, then why jump into something advanced? And that's my ideology behind going for security careers, because a lot of people try to jump in there without knowing none of this basics, and that's where the problem starts for a lot of people. So here you go, we have this a server ready to roll out, and like I said, this is a normal server. So the first thing you want to do in this server environment is that you want to give it a proper name. Okay, so let's enable and open everything, and to change the name you just click on system. Now remember, I am doing this lab to make my life easy to learn things, right? In the beginning you're going to be doing the same thing. So don't worry too much about security right now. If you're too much worried about security, then maybe don't follow my suggestions right here, because then you want to follow a security labs. If you want to learn help desk stuff, then you have to follow what I'm doing, so you can learn skills first, then worry about security later on. Because a lot of people get a little worried, like, you just disable the firewall, oh my god, stuff like that. So I'm not into that. So here you go, this is the RAM that we have given that, but this name is definitely not what we want for our domain controller. So we're going to have to rename this machine, and we're going to call it DC. A lot of people are going to call it DC1, DC2 in the companies. So we're going to call it DC right now, because it's the only domain controller that's in this lab environment. So I'm just going to call it DC, and I'm just going to restart this machine. So now when this machine is restarted, then that's going to be the normal name that I'm going to be using, and it's easy for me to remember. And then later on, when I do my lab or connect machines to this domain controller through Active Directory, then I can really manage it very easily, because I can find it very easily. If you use that long name, then you're gonna have too many issues in the future. So there you go, we have a ready, and we're gonna do the same process, Alt Control Delete, and now again we're gonna log into this machine. Thought something was my okay. Alright, so this is right here on the right side. You see that this machine have 180 days of 180 days of trial that you have in this machine. So this is where some of the things I'm going to show you, because I know it's going to get a little advanced, but it's going to save you tons of time. Like, it's going to save you too much time right here. So the first thing we want to do is this. We named this machine, and we didn't do anything to this machine yet. We have not made this a domain controller. And the reason for that is that I want to create a copy of this machine, so next time when I want to spin a server, I can just spin it without installing the whole operating system again. Usually this is called imaging. You have the big nice image. You do a lot of things with it, but you don't do anything that is going to be related to a lot of identification numbers, SSDs and stuff like SSIDs, or any other IDs that is very specific and unique to users. I know it's getting a little advanced, but just know that you don't want to be putting a domain controllers type of stuff or features and then take an image. You want to take an image when you have a fresh system and you have just done a little bit basics to it, right? So the first thing I would recommend for even server or operating system in the future, we're going to do that too, is to take an image right now. Very important to just take it right now. You change the name. It's not going to retain the name, by the way. It's going to remove this name. But here you go. We're going to basically go to sysprep, and you're going to go to run and type sysprep, and basically hit enter. And here you go. You got this sysprep. This comes with Windows, and then basically you're going to run as administrator. And here you will click on generalize, and then click enter system outside of the box experience. And when you click on that, make sure you select shutdown, not reboot, because if you reboot it, then you won't have the ability to grab that image, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to basically click on generalize right now. All right, so you must be thinking, what happened to your shirt? Yeah, it's a different day now. So I got tired, turned off the video, and now we are back again. After the image that I took, the server basically shut down. As you can see, it got shut down. And I did another thing with this image, because what happened is this is your main sysprepped image right now. So what you want to do in for future, you want to keep this image safe, just in case your main machine, your main image goes bad. Then you don't have to do this reinstallation, that what I just showed you before, that you spend all that time. So you go to the preferences, and you will basically copy Control C, and you're going to go back to your folder, and you're going to open this path. So once you open this path, then make a folder server copy from here. So what you want to do is you want to keep this image safe now. Your image is right here, your machine is running from here, and this is the imaged VDI. You right click on it, you copy this, put it in this folder safely, so next time if your main image goes bad, then you can easily come back and redo this thing in a very short time. You don't have to reinstall everything again. So that's number one. You just have this template now, this image template, that next time if something goes wrong, then you can come to it very easily. So you're going to cancel everything. Now I'm going to show you how easy it is to create a second server without the need of installing everything from scratch. It's very simple in a VirtualBox. You right click on the server or a desktop. Let's say you want multiple ones. You right click and you click on clone. Now here's the thing. In the clone, as you can see, you have two options. Then I would not check these two right now. Keep the hardware. This is basically keeping the IDs. We don't want to keep that right now. Keeping the same name. No, I don't want to keep that. I'm just going to call it server B. And then here I'm going to click next here. And this is a two important area. If you do full clone, it's going to create a brand new server with a new VDI, and everything is just not related to the first one. If you created this link clone, so if your main machine goes down, then you're going to have issues with the link clone. Now link clone is usually used for you to create, let's say you do something with this server and you're not sure about it, right? You're not sure about the next step. So you make a link clone out of it, do that stuff in the link clone, then remove the link clone, and then come back and redo the thing if you want to do that. You can keep the link clone. It's like a snapshot in other virtualization. Okay, so here we're going to take a full clone, and we're going to click OK. And right now it's cloning. Even though it says like 3%, 4%, 5%, it's a little slow. Does it look like slow? But when it goes to like 20%, it just immediately ends. So it's something really fast after that. So don't think that it's going to take that long for it to finish up. It's going to pretty much finish up after when it hits like 20%. So there you go, about 15%, and it just went on. So now this is what I was talking about. You have server 2019 and you have server B right here. So maybe I want to change the server name. I can come over here, right click, and I want to rename it. Where do I rename it? Forgot to do this, but I can go to settings, I believe. It should be an easy way to rename it, by the way, but maybe I'm forgetting. But here you go. We got this DC. I'm going to call it domain controller because that's what I want to do, right? And then I have this server B just for maybe more practice. I want to add maybe like a file server manager on it, maybe IIS, a web server. I could use a domain controller, but usually you want to run the domain controller and leave it alone. Don't do too much with the domain controller. Leave it alone in your lab, and you're going to be good, because that is like the king in your network. You don't want to mess with it too much. The rest of the stuff, features like server-wise features, spin up a different server, and that's why I like to give more RAM, and that's why I suggest more RAM and space, because now you're using multiple things to do learning, but that's how properly it's done. In a companies, you don't spin up domain controller and do everything on a domain controller because it has too many things going on. And that domain controller has a lot of things going on. So If I show you that these are the two different machines now, I can prove it to you by opening a DC, which is the domain controller, and I can click on this machine and we can simultaneously turn on both machines, and we shouldn't have any issues because we did a. So as you can see, we have a DC, which is right here, and we have a server B, which is right on my right monitor. Let me move it to. So one of the things that you will find out that you have your mouse can get stuck inside the machine. So in a VirtualBox, to do this, I don't know, for some reason, okay, in a VirtualBox, to move out of your machine, you see on the right side it says right click, right control, right? So you're gonna hit the control on the right side. So right now I'm inside this machine. Maybe it's not holding it right now, but once you're inside, you see right control and then click. Just hit the control and then click, and you're gonna get out of that machine. But as you can see, we have two servers that are coming up simultaneously, and that is where now machine is spinning while I'm recording, while these two machines are running, and all my other applications are running on this laptop. And you can see this is what I was talking about. Even though with that kind of memory, I'm still struggling, and that's why we don't use VirtualBox in our trainings, because this is a problem. A lot of people will be getting stuck and be slow, all that kind of stuff. But that's why we give out ESXi server, direct server access, and it's using more powerful features, more powerful CPU and everything, and people are just zooming through these labs. That's the biggest difference, and that's why we believe in that kind of access. And this is what I'm talking about, because, and of course maybe you may not have this type of issue because I'm recording, so the recording can take a lot of processes, and CPU and RAM is going crazy. So of course you may not be having this type of issue, but still it is a very intensive stuff right here. So here you go, we have a domain controller, just server, it's not even a domain controller yet, and then there's a server B running right now. So for you to learn something as an IT professional now, this is shifting into more of virtualization inside the skills. So some of the skills I'm going to later on tell you what courses you should be taking to actually learn these skills, because right now the VirtualBox stuff is almost kind of like done here. You just need to now know the internal skills of these virtual machines, which is why we call it IT training for VirtualBox. So if you want to create this network client server type of network, then server client type of network, then this is what you need to do. You have a domain controller and you have a server. So let's go to a little bit of theory, just so you have more understanding. In the company, you may have, let's say, a company like this. What you're doing, what you're learning is this right now. You go to the company, they have this rooms. In the rooms, these are the people that you're supporting, and they may have laptop, desktop, and most of the companies, they are managed. When we say managed, there's a server somewhere in the data center, and either it could be a virtual server, it could be a physical server, it doesn't matter. You put this domain controller, which basically becomes a domain controller when you put AD on it, and that's kind of like the server we just installed, but it doesn't have AD yet. We haven't done this part yet. And what happened is that through this, once you have this, basically through your network, because these machines are connected to the switches and routers, blah blah blah, and then they are connected right here, and now they get connected to that server, and basically you start managing them. And that's where people will call you, my password got locked out and blah blah blah, I need a software installed on my machine, and all these different type of things that are connections happening in the company. You get to basically from your machine control these machines through Active Directory, using the Active Directory management tool. So here we have this domain controller that we want to build right now in that company. Let's say we're gonna come over here and let's make it a little bit larger so that we can start doing this. So you're gonna click on next. It's a little slow by the way. Alright, so make sure you read this. I read it right in front of you, and I'm gonna click accept, and now I'm gonna basically put the password. There you go. So server doesn't take that long, so that's why I'm using a server, by the way. If you can install the Windows 10 machine, perfectly fine, but I'm going to show you on the servers, and then I'm going to show you where you can learn all of these skills. All of this stuff is already covered in our trainings, and free training, paid training, you name it. If you want to get training from us, like you're saying, what kind of training do you guys provide? This is exactly how we do it. You're going to be online, You're going to have a powerful server with us, and we're going to teach you everything. We're going to create an Active Directory just like this. We're going to explain things to you. All that stuff goes to more advanced stuff like that. And then we give you labs and we mentor you. In 3 months, you feel like you're an IT professional. That doesn't mean you will become an IT professional, but at least you're better than a person who doesn't have any real world skills. It's way big. There's a big difference between someone just getting an A+ certification and just going out there, and someone who's getting these kind of trainings and then going out there. So now you have this network connection going on. Great, no problem. But remember, we imaged this server, so I don't think it's going to retain the name, but we can verify it. Okay. So right now this is a domain controller server that we want to create a domain controller. We're going to turn this into an Active Directory server. You see right here, when we did the sysprep, it removed that name. So the first thing when you create a domain controller, make sure you in the lab give it an easy name. I'm going to call it DC1. Now in the beginning I called it DC, but I feel like there's probably another DC in my lab room somewhere, so it's going to probably have some conflict. So I'm just going to put DC1 in here, and that should be okay. If it doesn't, then we may have to change that, and if there's any other DC1 available. So while this is happening, we can also go back to the second server, which is this one. And this one is done right now, so I'm going to click restart. And let's go back to, somehow these clicks are not working very quickly. So here, I'm going to restart this machine. There you go. And let this server restart one more time. Okay, I'm being impatient now. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Come back here to this server. And now I'm going to go ahead and click on accept. Now, if you want to make it easy for yourself a little bit, even though with that kind of RAM, I'm still struggling with this laptop. Don't know why. But the thing is this, if you feel like you're going to be struggling like this, maybe do one machine at a time. And that's the best way to do it, because you're not going to, your machine is not going to be screaming too much. So here I'm just doing it just to pass it quickly, all these settings right now. So there you go. I just logged into the second machine, and I'm going to do the same process. Now, you naming virtual template server B or DC is not going to come and change the operating system name, actual operating system name. That's not going to happen. So do know that, because a lot of people get confused. They even connect machines to their domain with those big names out there, and then they try to ping it with this name. Like, hey, why is this not pinging? And then they realize later on, oh, I didn't even change the machine name inside the virtual machine. So do know that as a new person, you probably would think that maybe it's the name, but that's actually not the name. Alright, so our domain controller is up. So let's go ahead and do Alt Control Delete. And now we're gonna log in, and basically, so what I'm about to show you is a lab method of creating a domain controller. It does not mean you're gonna create a domain controller and Active Directory like this in a real world environment. If you do want to do that, then I would highly recommend you become a premium member, because in that you get access to practice labs. And a practice lab, you basically have step-by-step solutions where you're going to learn everything. So while I'm doing this now, I'm going to be showing you how you're going to be learning these skills, because it's critical. For someone who's brand new, they're like, why are you doing this, a domain controller this way? This is not how it's supposed to be done. Well, this is just a lab environment. You want to learn, help the skills. So don't think too much about this stuff yet. You just watch it, learn it, get things connected, and then as a help desk, then as a level 1, try to learn your stuff at your level. If you are interested now to become a sysadmin and want to learn that kind of stuff, then I would highly recommend you invest in the practice labs, or maybe just go for a different type of company or platform that can definitely provide you the skills at that level. Why? Because this is not going to cut it for you. There's too many things for you to create a domain controller. That's definitely not going to work for you. Knowing is a good thing in the lab environment, but actually performing this kind of stuff as a real world sysadmin job, not level 1, it's totally different things, and I'm going to show you in a second. So here you go. You must be wondering, what am I talking about? So when you become a premium member, we give you access to this huge access, and all of this is basically real equipments, real routers, everything for 1 year. And of course these labs are time based, like 60 minutes. You do some kind of step-by-step like processes, and then you finish it, then you move on 60 minutes again, 60 minutes again, and you can make the time go up till you're working on it. So let me show you. If you're thinking, okay, you know what, you're talking about this server stuff, how do I learn this stuff? So then you're going to come into the Microsoft section. In the Microsoft section, you can go for the 2016 server lab courses. These are full courses, by the way. You can book from outside. We give you also access to another partner portal for 200 plus courses. They have radical courses, so you can mix match things. They're not together, but you can actually mix match it. So here you go. You have this 7740, 7741, 742. So if you want to become a server admin, this is the lab that you guys are going to be taking mainly. So if I click on identity with Windows 2016, this is all about this deploying domain controller. You see right here, part 1, part 2, operation system, manage Active Directory, administer Active Directory. It goes in more advanced level than just level 1 stuff, and that's exactly what the skills are required from a sysadmin. Then you're going to need these labs. Those VirtualBox kind of stuff is not going to do it for you, because you do need more equipments, more stuff, much more better way to learn. So if I click on it, you can see these are exercises. You click on it, start. As soon as you click on start, on the left side, basically what will happen is going to give you this introduction with some diagrams. On the right side, you got multiple machines already in your, it's like a setup already done. And on the left side now, you see this huge step-by-step information that you have to follow with screenshots, and that's a proper learning to become a sysadmin. Now the left part for you to learn something basics, or you find some good video on YouTube, and if you have the ability to find these type of videos and you think that these are good and I'm going to learn on it, then you can use this stuff. But you gotta, that's the thing, this is why you pay over there in the labs. And when you don't pay, you gotta go through all of this stuff on your own. Both way works. Whichever you feel is best for you, go for that. So here we have a domain controller up and running, but this server we just got it in running right now. So okay, so we have it here. I'm just gonna minimize this, see everything is good. Okay, so I'm gonna right click on this server as well, and I'm gonna call it server B, because we have not changed the name of this server as well. So I'm just gonna call it server B right now. And sorry, I'm pausing the videos because it's a little slow that I'm doing all of this stuff at one time. So it's a little definitely slow because I'm recording on the same machine. So here we're gonna call it server B. Still, it's not bad. I mean, if I was recording this on a normal hard drive, I wouldn't be able to do this. I would just give up. So server B, we're gonna restart it. There you go. Server B is restarting right now. We're gonna minimize this and coming back to the domain controller. So now, like I said, in the lab environment, we're not going to care about anything, how it's done in the real world, but we just need to get that management going on, right? So the thing is the first thing is you need to wait for this to finish up this loading right here. So make sure this finishes up. Once this is finished up, then I'm going to go ahead and install Active Directory on this server. And this is where you're going to learn and feel how Active Directory gets installed. Not a proper way, but that's how it's done in lab. And then later on, you're going to start adding more machines to this Active Directory, and that's where your learning will start. And then I'm going to show you courses that you should take, free courses. Paid training is really up to your choice. Free YouTube videos, whatever you want to watch it, and then you enhance on this VirtualBox. But VirtualBox, without learning this stuff, without knowing this stuff, is useless for an IT professional. That's why we use it, and also we use it for actually more testing and stuff like that too. So till now, I think people can say, okay, I already learned about VirtualBox. They can close the video. But if you want to keep on learning, then just keep on watching, because that's what you're going to make a lab for yourself. So the first thing you need to do is to click on Manage. You're going to click on Add Roles and Features, and then you're going to click Next. And then click Next. Like I said, don't worry about nothing. A lot of people say put a static IP address. None of that is required right now in these labs. You can always come back and change the IP address. Forget about that kind of stuff for now. And what we're going to do, we're going to click on Active Directory Domain Services. And here we're going to click Add Features. And then we're going to click Next, find Next, and then basically click Install. So when you install this, what will happen? This is going to stop at some point and say, hey, we need to promote this to a domain controller. We're going to promote it. A DNS, a DNS server is going to also get installed. The service is going to get installed on this one too. So we're not going to use a DNS from our normal router, and that's the problem with some of the labs that you're doing over here. Then you're going to be like, hey, where do I learn about that DNS stuff? How can I do that properly about the DHCP, DNS? So for that, let me just take you to another learning. Like I said, this is whole learning now. Learning, how do you learn proper things where, right? So you see this Active Directory is getting installed, but you want to know, can I do this in a proper way? Can somebody show me this on a real stuff, like a real router, real switch, real server being running, and somebody configuring a DHCP and router stuff? So let me show you that. I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to pull it up. So you will go to YouTube, and to learn that proper DNS, DHCP, how is it configured, then you're going to go to YouTube, go to Job Skillshare Community, and you're going to click on Playlist. Okay? Once you click on Playlist, then I want you to look for, let's go down. This playlist right here. How to set up a real office network lab. So in this is a very powerful lab, by the way. I mean, I love it when I teach things, because it kind of clears so many things for people that are watching these labs now. Because my concern in the beginning was that when I was learning this stuff, how do people actually configure the real DHCP? How do they configure it on these Cisco devices, right? Like, they connect a Microsoft server, which is mainly used in the corporate world. How do they do that, So I need to know that. So if you have the lab right now, you can watch these full 5-6 videos. To be honest, it's going to clear everything for you. And then you can come back to your labs, because that confusion is gone. Then you can concentrate on your skills. These 5-6 videos are for your confusion right here. And even it's going to teach you some good stuff in there, because it's a real equipment that I'm using, real Cisco routers and switching I'm using, and a server. So then I have done this whole complete package right in front of you. And I have done the same thing that you're seeing in the lab right now. So you can actually learn from it and maybe apply that in some of the lab that you are doing right now. Okay. So now I'm going to basically go back and let's see where here you go. So it says promote this server to a domain controller. So we're going to basically click on that, and we are going to promote it, and we're going to create a new forest, because this is a brand new domain controller that you're installing. We don't have an extra one, so we're going to basically say add a new forest. So here, root domain name, this is kind of like where you need to add that name. Like, okay, my headquarter is JobSkillshare. So HQ, my headquarter .jobskillshare.org. You see these kind of things in your company, right? You're going to see like maybe something corp.jobskillshare. So we're going to do corp.jobskillshare.org. And then you click next right there. Okay. So, oh my God, I did crop. All right, let's forget it. It's crop now. Okay. So we're going to do, I don't know if you can go back. Actually, we can change it. Here you go. We're going to change this corp. Okay. We're going to click next. And now we're going to go back in there and then basically get this thing done. And here you're going to basically put the password in there. So just put an easy password. You don't need to know all of this stuff. Like I said, if you want to learn this again, you're going to go where? You're going to go to the lab that I mentioned. You want to become a premium member, either with us, somebody else, whoever gives you these labs, do it. Labs are very important. Labs with guidance are very important. Just labs these days are not cutting for many people. So this is what I was talking about, DNS. So it's going to create its own DNS in the server. You're going to click next, and let this NetBIOS thing take care of itself. You don't need to do anything. So just give it a second. It's going to probably put that corp in there for you, or if you use whatever you use, HQ use, whatever, it's going to put it out there. So we have that corp in there, and now we're going to click next in here, and then basically move on to the next step to complete this installation. So here we got some other stuff here. You can view the script if you like scripting. This is all done in scripting too. And here we're going to click next, and basically it's going to go where give you some warnings. Forget about the warnings. Like I said, this is lab, and we're going to click install to complete this. So there you go. Now we're going to click on install, and bam, we got this whole domain controller getting ready. And now after this, you just have to wait. And once this is done, we got the king ready in our network. So let me go back to this. We got this guy completed. Okay, this is done then. Then we have this another server that we install, and we want to use it for some other management purpose. That server is going to get connected over here. This is not a domain controller. This server is not a domain controller. It's just a server with more powerful features, and you get connected to the AD, so you can even manage this server, and then through this server you can even start giving more services to these people, and while this AD server is managing these machines as well. So that's the whole point of this, and that's the whole company's, like, when you learn something in a VirtualBox as an IT professional, that's the kind of like scenario that you want to create for yourself. But of course, it's more than that, and that is why I suggested in the beginning that consider to go for the labs. If you feel like you want to learn more stuff, then I think you should definitely consider to go for the labs from any. Okay, so there you go. You're going to see this message. Computer is about to restart, so that's fine. We're going to close this. This computer will get restarted now. While this is getting restarted now, okay, we're going to go back to this guy right here, and we will basically open it, and we haven't restarted this machine yet, so we're going to restart this as well, and then both machines will be restarted. So now you're thinking, Danish, where do I learn all of these skills? Because there's so many desktop support level 1, level 2, all of these type of skills. Where do I really learn this stuff, Danish? So we have multiple options for you. I'm going to get into the free stuff too, but before that, I also want to show the services, because to be honest, free stuff is great. We're going to give you so much free stuff that you'll get tired. You won't even finish it. I'm going to show you that right now in this few minutes. But the first thing I want to talk about is this program that we're doing right now is MISP, M-I-S-P, and that's kind of like the T is the training. So in this, basically, we have decided to cover this whole training as phases. So phase 1 is when somebody give you live training. So for example, you're watching me, I'm explaining things, but you don't have a way to stop me and ask me a question, right? So that's kind of like the stop is you can never compare a live training, a live mentorship with anything that's recorded. That's one of the things about why instructor-led training, if they're good, then they're good. But instructor-led training sucks when it's only like 3 days or 5 days. And in our case, it is 3 or 5 days, yes. But what happens in our program, we don't finish the training. So the first training that we have, the live training, is where we teach you these skills that you just saw in this VirtualBox training. After this, of course, there's tons of different things that we have to cover, like ticketing, deployments, who's going to talk about file sharing, all that stuff. We're going to go through 15 hours of worth of talking and showing, and just lab in your own server, and you do everything. You create your whole system and everything, and then it's more than that. After that, it's more than that, right? And this whole process takes about 2 to 3 months. So the first phase is live. We break into the IT mind, and we break all that stuff for you. So now you're not sidetracked, you're not losing your focus. Then the second phase, then we give you testout.com for 3 months, which is another really cool platform, and it's very dedicated to like simulations and labs again. And on the third phase, we work on your resume. So it's not just learning skills right here. There's way more stuff than this. But let's say you say, okay, no, I'm not interested in this because it's too much money. I mean, of course, this is not cheap. It requires me 3 different trainers to be sitting with you and spending that kind of time. So of course, that's not going to be free. But if you want to do this for free, and you want to learn now skills, because you got the lab ready now, you have the domain controller ready, you can start adding machines to it, all these kind of stuff, these type of skills, then I'll be honest, you should really start with the IT Fundamental V1.0. Now, this course is not totally free, but the first 40% of this course is what you need, and then jump into this course, which is called Help Desk Support Technical Skills. It has 16,000 people in this course, and this is one of the most extensive course that we have in this platform. Even though it's free, it doesn't mean that we're not gonna put stuff in there. This course, this is like a library. So you go in there, you learn a lot of good stuff about real world, and then you go to the ticketing system, then you go to Active Directory, there you go. So in this Active Directory course, it's free also. Then you have this domain controller ready, and then you're like, okay, what kind of calls will I be getting, right? You're gonna be like, what kind of tickets will I be getting because of this Active Directory that I have? Now, if I have Active Directory, what else can I do? Maybe you can go to Office 365 and start installing. Why would you need a lab for Office 365? Because still, Office 365, the Office suite that they have, it's connected. OneDrive is connected. You can download all this stuff. Team, you can download it in these labs, that one that you have, and then you can learn that because it's connected. It's synced, right? And people are using on-premises hybrid type of environment. You have Active Directory and you have Office 365, both are connected. And maybe you want to learn those type of skills, right? And then of course, IT resume and everything. So all these 5 steps that you're seeing, this is more than 100 hours of content. So I cannot see how can someone like not learn this stuff. You either have a paid option, which is more kind of like targeted. Of course, it gives you more paid stuff, paid labs and everything. It's more hands-on. Here you got the same quality stuff, but it's just more videos, and it takes time for us to update it. But then on the bottom, then we have collaboration going on with other other channels like KevTech, Kubumin. As you can see, we have virtualization. Then you can learn about virtualization in a more advanced way, troubleshooting. Then of course all these remote troubleshooting. Then desktop lessons by KevTech, level 1, level 2. So many different videos they're providing on their platform, and their channels are amazing. And then Kubumin has a lot of videos right here. Then of course we have this other features like okay, you want to learn about certification for free, then Professor Messer. So you got tons of videos out here, career related questions, like about 86 career related questions. So even if you're following just this free content right here, it's going to take you to another level right there. But of course, if you want to be in a platform and you want to do career development, then you need to use a system, and you need to use labs. You can get into these different type of labs, and of course we are there for you as mentors. You can always send us a text as a premium member, say, hey, I'm confused about this area, what lab would you recommend? And then you can do that, of course, in this stuff. But if you want to keep it the same stuff, then just continue with this learning on VirtualBox from many different platforms. It's really your choice, or different channels or stuff like that. You can actually use it, but it's just a little tedious for brand new people to follow what. There's so much out there. How do I focus on what, and who's going to give me the tickets, right? That's kind of the problem with doing a self labs. So now that we have a domain controller ready, you can see, but when I do alt control delete, now I will be able to see some more options over here. Like I would be able to see my domain that I basically just created. So I will be able to see that. You see right here, corp administrator. So now I can log in with this account, and I can see Active Directory will be there, and then that is my area that I can start doing management. So there you go. You're gonna log in. Okay, so now we are done with this, and you can see, like I said, you should wait for this little bar on the top when the server is up and running. On the left side, you're going to see ADDS, all this kind of stuff is going to pop up, DNS. So at this point, your management machine is ready, and you have Active Directory, which I'm about to show you in a second. But while that's happening, let's go back to this server, and let's see if we can log into this server. Oh, not trying to click on different things. My bad. Let me just stop this. Close this. Input, keyboard, alt control delete. There you go. So now we're gonna come over here, put the password. Now remember, this server is a work group server. It has nothing to do with that domain controller that we just created. So we want to manage this server now, and that's how, when you create a Windows 10 operating system, it's not going to be managed anymore. You have to manage it, and that's what we said, add a machine to a domain controller. And that's where your skills about learning about IT skills really start from this area, because you get a machine, you get a laptop from Dell, HP, and fresh, you turn it on, you do installations, and then after that, what you do, after that, you have to connect that machine to a AD, Active Directory, to be able to manage it. And that is where your whole process starts. Adding a user, then getting them set up, applications for them, deployments for them, blah, blah, blah. Everything just starts from there, because everything then runs from that Active Directory, permissions level stuff. So that's why it's so important for you to learn this skill in the beginning. And then later on, you can get into tiny, miny things like specific operating system features. Like I said, there's tons of videos, and even we have labs for that in this lab, that you can get into, like multiple labs out there. You can do a lot of stuff, and or if you have this running and you install Windows 10, which we just installed the ISO, we haven't done that part, then you can install the Windows 10 on it and then just join it just like any other machine. Okay, so let's minimize this and go back to our domain controller, and it's still spinning, and that's like the beauty of running everything on one laptop. So now there you go. We got a domain controller ready. So if you want to verify that if you have an Active Directory and you want to touch that Active Directory feeling and stuff like that, then simply go into this domain controller. So here you go, tools and Active Directory users and computers. And this is where you see that corp jobskillshare.org is ready. Bam, you got the Active Directory nice and clean ready. So of course after this what you want to do is maybe you can just start practicing Active Directory skills. Like I showed you where to go for this kind of stuff. You can go to JobSkillShare, take our live training, or take the free course that I just showed you. And in that I have shown many examples. If you go to YouTube channel and just type Active Directory JobSkillShare, honestly I have 1 hour 2 hours of live video trainings on Active Directory, so you're going to learn from that kind of stuff. That's the same videos, by the way. So here you're going to type help desk just for, I mean, right now my Virtualbox stuff is done here. I'm just adding some stuff here just to show you that, okay, if you were following this, how can you use your first account? So here you go, we got to help this account. I'm going to say no, don't change the password. And here I'm going to give it a password. So I just added a normal user in this Active Directory, but normal user is not enough for me to learn things. I'm going to create a domain admin. I'm going to name this, I'm going to put this guy, help this person, as a domain admin, has domain rights. Okay. Now the most important thing about these type of labs, like I said, that's why I wanted you to see the first proper lab that I show in my YouTube. Those are how it's done, but in your lab you have to kind of play around with your DNS, because your DNS is running here in the server, but every time you do a bridge connection, you open a computer, it goes out and grab an IP address and DNS stuff from your normal router. So you gotta tell that machine, nah, I don't want you to give me a DNS stuff. I want this server to be able to give me DNS, so, or to be managing me. So here what you want to do, the first thing is to go and find the IP address of this machine. As you can see, this is 195, 1.195 is the address. Okay, so we're gonna go into this server. As you can see, if you go to this server, and then basically if you do it, if you try to add this server to a domain, what would you do? You're gonna click on local, you're gonna click on work group, and this is exactly what you are gonna do in the Windows 10 machine. Watch that course please for this kind of stuff. Like I said, it's just getting to that learning now. So now I'm coming back to change domain here, but if I type corp.jobskillshare.org, it won't work, right? It's gonna give you a message, and if I do details, you see right there, it tells me that DNS issues is going on right there. Since we don't have a proper DNS in our current network right now, which is kind of like a local home network, you're gonna right click over here, you're gonna go to the networking adapter option, you're gonna click on Ethernet, and here change adapter option, and then right click on it, go to properties, and then here you're gonna click on TCP IPv4, and don't touch anything with the DHCP stuff, leave that alone. 192 168 1.195. If you want to confirm it again, make sure you just go back in there. You can always ping the server, but I just want to go in there and make sure that 192 168 1.195. Okay, that's good. So we got that done, and then 195. Okay, and then here we're gonna put this Google DNS address just for fun here, and I'm gonna click OK now, and I'm gonna close this, and then I'm gonna close all of this stuff, and then if I do corp.jobskillshare.org, bam, there you go, you got that message from this machine. So if I just type help desk, that I just created an account, and that's where you become an IT professional. You get to learn this stuff, you get to join machines to a domain. That's what they ask you in the interview, and then basically you come over here and just type your username and password, and now this server is joined to the domain. And once you have this done, you restart the server, you go back to the domain controller here again, and just verify that by Active Directory. You come over here, you can see now once a computer is installed, it's pretty fast after that, right? It's just that installation part is kind of like a little screwy. There you go, server B is added. So this is a complete lab, people, that if you want to learn about Virtualbox, you want to do everything on your own, then this is what you need to do. But what I want to focus on, how I just talked to you about Active Directory, how I said that join the computer to a domain is an interview question, all of this stuff has to come from somebody, either channels, either some proper documentation, either mentorship like what we are doing. It's called real world skills, by the way. and stuff like that. It has to be done in a more specific format, learning format. So this whole video is about not to just show you how it's done in a Virtualbox. I could have done that in 5 minutes, and I have done that in other videos. But this is just to show people that if you're going to be using Virtualbox, then you need more information. I already gave you a pretty nice list, jobskillshare.org/free link for you to go and get started if you want to learn this stuff. I also showed you that if you want to invest money in yourself and you want to utilize our energy and our time and our skills, then you gotta pay, because we got 3 people to train you then. If you want to be not doing this stuff and you want to use our equipment for 30 days and 1 year access in practice lab environment, where you don't have to recreate this again and again and again and again, because you are more focused on learning skills rather than recreating this stuff again and again, and then I would highly recommend you go for the premium membership. Become a premium member and you will not regret it. Why? Because you have 1 year access to routers, switches, all that kind of stuff. 1 year access is just good enough for brand new person, even not brand new, even an expert. If they don't have this kind of time to spin up these servers or resources, then for them it's also career development. Thank you for watching this video. I hope this really clears some of the ideas, some of the misconceptions, some of the things that people were thinking about Virtualbox, and now I showed you what it means with tips, learning tips, and actual lab. Thank you so much. If you have any question, any comments, let me know. What do you think? And we'll talk to you later